What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Shanghai. We have Ming going against Johnny Walker. And yeah, looking forward to the card. The card is kicking off here in less than like 12 hours. The fights are kicking off at 3 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And yeah, it's a light card for me. You know, not a ton really sticking out, but I'm looking forward to talking through it here, breaking it all down from a betting perspective. Before we do so, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, much appreciated. On our way to 30K subs, hopefully by the end of the year. If you want to support me more, best way to do so is to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I'm doing a ton of content. I do a ton of content in general for UFC, but even with Dana White's Contender Series, I'm doing a ton on there as well. So check me out there. Contender Series has been going pretty good thus far, and we got 8 weeks left of it. So yeah, it's been a busy time, and we got some fights coming up. So let's kick it off with the first fight of the night. It is Uran Salty Baldiev going against DR Nergoze. So Nergoze actually opened up plus 210, and he's currently plus 110. So a lot of money has came in on him, and I did get a late start on taping the fights this week. And if I was able to get into the tape a lot earlier on, I probably would have a bet on Nergoze at like plus 185. But yeah, the line got smashed, and it's continued to get smashed throughout the week. And at about a pick 'em, I just don't really see a reason to get involved because, you know, Nergoze looked awful in his last fight. Just looked absolutely terrible. He missed weight, looked bad in the cage, looked bad on the scale, but, you know, he did make weight this time around, so I'm hoping he's more prepared, ready to go. I'll take Nergoze as far as a pick goes, but don't really see a reason to get involved, especially after missing the line by a mile. Next, we got Su Young-Yu going against Long Zhao. I think, I see why this fight's lined pretty closely here. We have a striker versus grappler matchup, and I'm actually a big fan of both guys. You know, Su Young-Yu, I like the grappling. I like the nickname Jiu-Jitsu. He's looking to get the fight down to the ground early and often. But Long Zhao, what I like about him is, especially in this matchup, he's a really good anti-grappling, able to stuff takedowns, really hard to, you know, hold down. And if he's able to keep this fight standing for, you know, a decent period of time, I think he's absolutely going to do the better work in the stand-up, can land the better shots, harder shots, more volume as well. So I do lean towards the Long Zhao side here, plus 110. He did open up plus 145, so some money has came on in him as well throughout the week. And yeah, I think he's another live dog. But yeah, no action on these first two fights. I think both these fights being lined very competitively makes a lot of sense. Now we have a line that is not competitively lined, and it's going to be Izza versus Weston Wilson. We got Izza minus 1,200, Weston Wilson plus 700. So yeah, I like the under 1.5 rounds here. A lot of money's been coming in on the over. You know, Weston Wilson hasn't seen a second round in like 12 fights. It's been a long time, since like 2019. I like the fight won't start round 3 as a parlay piece here. And yeah, I think Izza can knock him out. I think Izza can sub him. Weston Wilson's been submitted 4 times by very, very sketchy level of competition. 3 of those submission losses did come in round number 1. So Weston Wilson is a killer-be-killed fighter with a 100% finish rate in his wins, and a guy that also has 7 finish losses. So I think Izza has a good opportunity to go out there and get the early finish. If you like Weston Wilson, sub 1 is like plus 3,500. I think that's how he wins. But how I played it was I took a shot on the Izza by knockout, half unit at plus 300. I mean, he's minus 800 to win this fight inside the distance, which is crazy. But you can get his knockout prop at plus 300. You know, Izza's not some, you know, murderous power puncher, but he really doesn't need to be. So, yeah, I think Izza gets it done under 1.5 rounds. And I have the fight won't start round 3 in a parlay. Next, we got Michel Pereira going against Kyle Daukaus. Yeah, this is one of those spots where it's like, man, if Michel Pereira didn't look completely awful in his last fight, it looked like he bet on his opponent in his last fight, I feel like he'd probably be minus 500 or even wider. I think it's a great matchup for Michel Pereira, but the worry is that he might be checked out. He might not care anymore. We got to worry about him betting on his opponent. So I'm worried about Michel Pereira, but if he shows up, you know, even halfway motivated, I think he goes out there and makes this look pretty easy. I don't think Kyle Daukaus is going to be able to take down Pereira, out-grapple him, especially early on. And on the feet, you know, Kyle Daukaus, he's very hittable. I don't think he has a great chin. And it wouldn't shock me if Michel Pereira went out there and sparked him early. So I'm taking a 1-unit shot on Michel Pereira to win in rounds 1 or rounds 2 at plus 170. And I don't want to go any heavier than that. If I didn't see the last fight for Pereira, I'd have a much bigger wager on him this week. But I'm just taking a 1-unit shot on him to go out there and get the finish early. So Michel Pereira to win in rounds 1 or rounds 2, plus 170. for a unit is my look for this fight, and I'm hoping he gets him out of there early. Next, we got Rong Zhu versus Austin Hubbard. Yeah, I like Rong Zhu to get the win. You don't really love the line. Austin Hubbard's a guy that's not really great anywhere, but he's okay everywhere. Very tough guy. Austin Hubbard's never been knocked out either. But I think, Rong Zhu's made a ton of improvements. I think it's a good matchup for him to go out there and get the win, but, minus 250, it is what it is. Lonnie Kavanaugh, Charles Johnson, same thing. I like Kavanaugh to get the win, but it's hard for me to get the minus 190. I think, if anything, maybe the plus 3.5 point spread on Charles Johnson, but I'm done betting Charles Johnson fights. This guy's just so inconsistent. Didn't even try in his last fight and lost it. Passing, but I think Kavanaugh probably gets the job done in a competitive decision. Gage Young, Mahashate. I'm surprised this fight's so high up on the card. This fight's going to be taking place at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm just not high on either one of these guys. Mahashate, a 29% striking accuracy, extremely chinny. He's been dropped 6 times his last 3 fights. But Gage Young's definitely nothing special. I expect this fight to be extremely competitive. I think Gage Young might have a little bit more volume. Gage Young's definitely the more durable fighter, so I lean the Gage Young way, but not any confidence in either one of these two guys. Next, we got Tailaki Nurajay going against Kiefer Crosby. So I like violence here quite a bit. I like the under 1.5 quite a bit. I have the fight won't start round 3 in a parlay. And I also took a shot on Nurajay to win by submission at plus 650 for a half unit. Kiefer Crosby has been submitted 3 times. Kiefer Crosby has absolutely no ground game on the mat. Guys are able to take him down instantly, able to get into dominant positions and finish the fight shortly after. And that's not entirely Nurajay's game. Nurajay does have a 100% finish rate. All of those come by knockout but one, and he does have 1 sub, but we do see Nurajay is going out there and mixing in the wrestling. If he does that, I think the sub is very live, but he also could just knock out Kiefer Crosby. I do think Crosby has a good chin. He's never officially been knocked out. The 1 knockout loss was a doctor stoppage, so I'm hoping Nurajay can go out there, take him down, make this look pretty easy, because that is the clear path to victory, and I kind of have a feeling like that's on the table. So, yeah, under 1.5, great look. Fight won't start round 3, great parlay piece, and then I took a half unit shot on the Nurajay by submission at plus 650 there. Sumadarji, Kevin Borjas. Yeah, nothing really sticking out here. I thought maybe the Kevin Borjas finish only, but yeah, I think it's going to be a competitive fight here. We have Sumadarji probably landing more volume, the cleaner striker. Kevin Borjas, having more power. I've never really been a big fan of Sumadarji, but when I'm typically betting against him, it's against a guy that's going to proactively grapple, and that's just not Kevin Borjas' game. So I'm fine with leaving this one alone, but it would be a dog or pass if I did get involved. Sergey Pavlovich going against Waldo Cortez Acosta. Yeah, I don't really trust Pavlovich at all. If this was a couple years ago, I'd be smashing Pavlovich from a betting perspective, that is. KO1, KO2, I'd be smashing it. But my worry here is he doesn't have that killer instinct anymore. He's not going out there with, coming forward and trying to take your head off. He's trying to be more technical. He's wrestling even, which is just weird. So, yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling this fight could just be very greasy, go 15 minutes, and if that's the case, I just don't want to get involved. But, yeah, if Pavlovich shows up, and he's the Pavlovich of old, he probably runs through Waldo, right? So it's one that I'm fine with staying away from, but Pavlovich should get this done if he shows up. Aljamain Sterling going against Brian Ortega. I wasn't going to bet on this fight, but there was some weird circumstances surrounding this fight, and just something I've never seen before. So I get that the fights are over in China, but I was on Twitter, and it's everyone's like, "Oh, the fight's off. This fight's off," and it's reputable sources are saying that Aljamain Sterling, Brian Ortega is off, and everybody's saying it. And apparently Brian Ortega fainted, and Brian Ortega went to the hospital, right? So yeah, the fights should be off, and a lot of people tweeted that the fight's off, and if the fight was taking place in Vegas, the fight would be off without a doubt, right? But 30 to 45 minutes later after that, we see a tweet that Brian Ortega and Aljamain Sterling are both weighing in, and they both weigh in around 153 at a catch weight. And I'm like, what's going on, dude? That's so annoying. But Brian Ortega showed up back from the hospital, and he looked awful. He looked terrible, and he clearly shouldn't be fighting. Brian Ortega clearly shouldn't be fighting this set. Like, it makes no sense, but, you know, I guess since they're in China, they can get away. I don't know. The commission's allowing it. It's weird. It's weird. It makes no sense. He looked like death on the scales. He shouldn't be performing, and I'm worried about Brian Ortega. And prior to these shenanigans, because they are shenanigans, I liked Sterling quite a bit. You know, I like Sterling. I thought he was going to win this fight. I thought he was going to be the clear minute winner in this fight. You know, Brian Ortega, he's kind of reliant on big moments on the feet, and I don't think he has that at this stage of his career. He's reliant on, you know, getting a submission off his back, and I'm not sure how likely that is against Sterling. The way I saw this fight playing out before the whole weight miss fiasco, hospitalized thing, is I thought Sterling would win the minutes on the feet just by being a lot more active, you know, heavy kick, heavy style, more volume, and then just taking down Brian Ortega, controlling him, staying on top, and winning minutes. I kind of see it as like a 50-45 Aljamain Sterling, as long as he's not able, or as long as he's not going to get his neck snatched up or anything like that, right? So I like Sterling here. And as soon as I saw that Brian Ortega miraculously weighed in, I went and placed a minus 5.5 points handicap spread bet on Sterling. It's the first time I've ever done this. And the reason I did the minus 5.5 is because I was thinking maybe Sterling by finish. Maybe Sterling by finish, but how annoying would it be if he like 44s him, right? So with that minus 5.5 points handicap, it covers a complete domination over the course of 25 minutes, which I think is most likely still. And then it also covers Sterling potentially even getting a finish. So that's kind of how I'm playing Sterling. He's no longer minus 265. I put these in, you know, before the whole weight miss thing. He's now like minus 400. So money's pouring in on Aljamain Sterling, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, it's pouring in on Sterling. You know, I think he probably should have been minus 400 before Brian Ortega, you know, looked completely awful. So, yeah, Sterling here for me. Don't mind him as a parlay piece. And again, I have that Sterling points handicap minus 5.5, 1.5 units at plus 110. And then the main event, we got Zhang Mingyang going against Johnny Walker. Nothing here. I think this fight ends under 1.5, but the under 1.5 is minus 300, just pretty much unplayable, because we could see some shenanigans here. We could see Zhang Mingyang, you know, take his time for the first time in his career. We could see Johnny Walker just, you know, try to really avoid the fight and stay safe. And we could see Johnny Walker potentially. I just think there's a lot of room for shenanigans when we're talking about laying minus 300 for an under 1.5. I do think Zhang Mingyang KO1 is the most likely scenario, but they're all over that. So I'll be staying away from the main event. But it wouldn't surprise me if something weird happened and maybe this fight did go over, or maybe this fight did get extended, because it's a Johnny Walker fight, and we've seen weird stuff happen in his fights before. So yeah, I'm completely passing, but violence should be expected. All right, quick recap here. Yes, staying extremely light for this card. I actually have more action than I expected for this week, but got the Sterling minus 5.5 points handicap plus 110 for 1.5 units. Which means he needs to win in dominant fashion, or he needs to get a finish there. So I like that. Yiza by KO, sprinkle, half unit plus 300. Nuraji, half unit sprinkle on the submission plus 650. Michelle Pereira to win in rounds 1 or rounds 2, 1 unit plus 170. And then I have the my parlay this week is the fight won't start round 3, which means it's not going to start the third round, in both the Nuraj and Yiza fights that came out to minus 125, and I have 2.5 units on that, so expecting violence in the Nuraj fight and the Yiza fight there. That's all, guys. Best of luck for UFC Shanghai. If you're staying up, shout out to you. I'm gonna try, but it's gonna be a late one tonight, so we'll see. Yeah, guys, be on the lookout for Dana White's Contender Series content. I've done tape on 3.5 of the 5 fights. So might get that out nice and early there. And we don't have a UFC card next week, but I will be doing a Dana White's Contender Series fight companion on Tuesday night. So be on the lookout for all of that. And guys, we'll talk to you soon. See you.